I made it on time. Yes, I made it on time. Always so happy when I make it on time. All right. Okay. Hi, Adeline. Thank you for joining me. All right. I made it. I'm on time. All right. Just gonna wait for a couple more people to join us. I hope you had a good Thursday that feels like Friday because I'm off tomorrow. Hi, Hannah. It was a fast day for me, at least. But I got everything done I needed to get done, so I will have time, plenty of time to do all the fun things that I want to do tomorrow. So, with that in mind, we have a full schedule tonight of stuff to talk about. So, I am excited about that. And of course, you guys can ask questions as you like. You too, Patrice. Hey. Isn't it nice? Isn't it nice to have tomorrow off? I had already scheduled tomorrow anyway, so. All right. Oh, your interview went good. That's great. I actually reviewed cases, just waiting for some news. I have my fingers crossed for you. All right, so I guess we can get started. Small crowd tonight, but that's okay. If you're brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue. I'm a medical coder. Tonight we are talking about schedules, schools, shots, and books. So let us begin. All right. Oh, you're welcome, Aunt Janet. All right, so I've been getting lots of questions from folks asking me about specific schools. And they're like, well, you know, what do you think of this school? What do you think of that school? I haven't been to these trade schools. I haven't been to Career Step. I have not been to Penn Foster. I have not been to any of these. The Andrews School, I've never been to any of them. So I cannot give you guys a true and honest opinion. There are some things that I've heard about them that are good. There are some things that I've heard about them that are not so good, about all of them, really, to be honest. So it really all depends on what you are looking for as far as like hands-on and what you need. I will say that when you are learning from an online trade school, that it is all learning basically on your own. Yes, there are some things that you're going to be proctored on, but for the most part, it's going to be a lot of self-study. So when it is a lot of self-study, you have to be prepared for that, because sometimes people are just not really into learning on their own. They want to have a hands-on instructor. With medical coding, it is a lot of independent study. That's just the way that this field is. I mean, if you end up in a place that has teaching, like hands-on teachers and stuff that teach you like critical thinking, then you're very lucky. But for the most part, it is going to be on you. So the only thing that I tell people is just make sure you're being trained for AHIMA or AAPC credentials. Do not waste your time with anything else, even though it is free and you get a voucher for it and it's free. Oh yes, you can add this other credential to your name. That credential does nothing for you when you are out in the real world looking for a job, because no one asks for anything that is not AHIMA or AAPC. So if you are in a program that teaches you AHIMA or AAPC, then you're good to go, okay? Just make sure that you get all of the teaching that you can out of it. Go to any of their webinars that they have, and that is like the best you can do. A lot of times people will tell me, well, Blue, I can only get this because I need financial aid and I don't qualify for all these other things. I understand that. I mean, it's totally understandable, but at the same time, there's no way to know if you're going to grasp it or not, or if you personally are going to have a good experience with a particular school. So that's why I always feel bad when people ask me, because there's really nothing that I can say. You know, I went to a trade school that's no longer there. And when I went to this trade school, they didn't even teach me. They sat me in front of a computer and said, here, learn. And that was it. That was what I had to do. But I was so focused on my goals, which is what helped me to get through that time. And it can help you get through your time as well. It's frustrating, yes, especially when you just need somebody to help you, you know, but I always recommend looking on LinkedIn, trying to find a mentor with your association, whichever credential you are going to be sitting with. Get involved with the association while you are a student, because it's going to help you with networking. It's going to help you with a lot of things. So that I really do recommend. But when it comes to like what I recommend for online learning, it has to be the associations themselves, because you can go through the associations, either AHIMA or AAPC, and get online training with them. But again, it is independent study. So, but it is a fraction of the cost. That's the trade-off from these trade schools. So you don't know what you're going to get with the trade schools online, right? But then if you go with the associations themselves, you get it for a fraction of the cost. I know AAPC has payment plans. With AHIMA, you can buy a course at a time. So that is, you know, always an option if you are looking for something like that, something that is more reasonably priced. Or you can go through it on your own. You can study on your own. I did post a syllabus for you to follow if you want to do this. If you want to do this on your own, I listed all the books that you need and, you know, the schedule and the times in order to study. So if you're willing to follow that, you know, you can literally get it for really a fraction of the cost. And there's no riffraff. There's no the school and my teacher. It is literally on you. So it is a big task. It is a big undertaking, but you know, it's entirely up to you on that point. Let's go to the comments before I get to the next thing. Let's see. Where am I? And Jen says, thanks for the advice. Emma says, hey, I got a call back after my pre-employment test and I got a job offer. Yay! That's awesome. Congratulations, Emma. Oh, that is really awesome. Thank you. Keep us posted. Yes, keep us posted, Aunt Janet, and you too, Emma. How do we find mentors? So you can go to LinkedIn and basically say you're a brand new medical coder, you're a medical coding student, and you need a mentor. Or you can go through your association. AAPC is really good for this because they have a very much of a grassroots movement. And so you can ask for a mentor that way as well. With AHIMA, you know, they do have the member boards where you can, you know, post something, and it just depends if somebody's going to get back with you or not. But some people get, you know, lucky and they get people who respond to them. So I guess it really all depends, you know. Hi, Maria. It's good to see you. Thank you for joining me. But yes, so that aside, now we're going to get into the shots. Somebody asked me, do medical coders need shots? And not the alcohol kind. Although I know we would all like that, right? I'm teasing. But shots, vaccinations. We all know what kind I'm talking about, okay? Whatever side of the fence you are on when it comes to shots, right? You have to think that you are in the medical field. Now, we have all seen the news. We know what's going on with the nurses right now. I think it's in Houston. It's happening right now with the nurses. This is a requirement at some facilities. Now, you may have a physical condition, you may have something else, or you may have an allergy, or whatever the case may be. If that's the case, then you need to talk to the potential employer or whoever you are going to be applying with, and find out what the policies are. Because the thing is, for some places, this is a requirement. There is no getting around it. And for some, it is just, that is the way that they have it set up. I mean, they're trying to follow safety protocols and things like that. So, that is something that is, in some places, it is not negotiable. Okay. And for medical coders, it's the same thing. It is not negotiable in some places. Whether it is that it's the flu season and they're making all the employees get the flu vaccine. Some employees are, they have a letter or whatever because they have an allergy, and that's fine. But in some places they can't accept that. So it really all depends where you are, where you're applying, and that is a lot to do with it. So you just have to ask questions, but it's not something that it's up for debate. This is not a debating thing. This is just something that these are the rules. It's just like how they wouldn't want you to come in to work under the influence or anything like that. Well, even though your state may be okay with it, you still work in a hospital. So that's something that is, you have to think about as well, because some states are okay with certain things, but it doesn't mean that you are okay to do those things when you work in certain positions. And especially in positions like ours, where you're having to think and where you're having to have all of these, you have to really be on on the ball and sharp when you are looking at these charts, because you can't be under the influence. So I'm just saying on that part. And again, whatever you think, just think about that. You're going into the medical field, and so some of what they go through is what it impacts us too. So when you work in a hospital, you may be part of the response team, because sometimes they have what's called like a mass casualty exercise. And that is like when hospitals get hit with a lot of patients all at one time. Like, say for instance, you live in an area that has a lot of tornadoes, and sometimes they have like these natural disasters. A lot of patients will converge on the hospital all at one time. And sometimes the coders get called in to write all the information in. At least in my facility, we are part of the response team. So if we are there in the facility, we do have to go to our stations wherever we're assigned, and we have to take the patient's information. We have to escort people around the hospital. We all have our assigned duties. So that is part of what we do. And part of what we do and what we see is a lot for anybody. But you are a part of the hospital, you are a part of the team. So that is something that you may need to think about if that is not what you are wanting to do. Well, maybe I just won't work in a hospital. Well, there's always that. You could always work at a clinic, but there is always the potential for something else, right, to occur. Some places will require you to, be certified in first aid. That is some places do have that. So again, something else to think about. There's a lot of detail to doing this, and when there's detail to these things, you have to be ready for almost anything. So that's just my advice on that one. Simone says, how can I contact you to review my resume, Bleu? My contact information is in the description box. So when you're looking at me on this screen, there is a thing that has like a little arrow that points down, and you click on it, and it'll bring up everything that's in this description box. And it has like all of my contact information. It's got my email address, medicalcodingwithbleu@gmail.com. It's got my Patreon address link, which is patreon.com/medicalcodingwithbleu. And it's got all of my socials on there as well. So if you are interested in contacting me, please look in the description box. It is also on my on my bio page. It's all over my Instagram. You can direct message me through Instagram as well. I've set up all sorts of sessions through Instagram Messenger as well. So if you're interested in contacting me, there's tons of ways. You can even comment on any of the videos. And Janet says, yes, my facility too, but we ought to be the last to be called in from HIM because they still want to charge coded for the money. And see, that's the thing too. They say, well, we need to know what information we're going to need. So who better to help us than the coders? At least that's their, thank you, Simone. At least that's their thought process, when you are working in the hospital, trust me. Sometimes people will look at us like, who are you? What do you do? And then when they find out that we're actually the ones that bring in the revenue, they're like, oh, yeah. So we kind of get looked at like we're in the back, we're in the shadows. And then when it comes down to brass knuckles, oh, we're actually pretty important. Yeah, you need us. So treat us right, so at least that's just what I think anyway. All right. Books. I'm going to get into this now. Books. I've been getting emails lately from people. Bleu, I'm taking my certification exam next year in 2022. Should I wait to get the books later, or should I wait to get the 2022 editions instead of getting the 2021 editions right now? If you get the 2021 editions right now, you can still practice with those. Yes, but you have to buy a new set when you get into 2022. Because if you are going to be taking your test in 2022, you need to have the current manual. If you are taking your exam with AHIMA, you have up until April to use the previous year editions, right? And so that is their rule. You can look on the AHIMA website if you're interested in that. So that way you can find out what year versions you need. If you happen to need to buy a new set, that is just the cost of getting into this industry. You can't sort of like, well, I want to wait. Okay, if you're going to wait, that's all right too, because we're already in June. The new books are coming out in October, obviously. So if you want to study all the things that you need to right now, which is medical terminology, anatomy and pathophysiology, and HIPAA and OIG and all these other things that you need to learn, right? Before you get into the coding, because you should be learning the coding last. You got to lay your foundation first, folks. But some people get so excited and they want their books right now. Okay, well then if you get 2021 editions right now, then you need to get the 2022 editions later. That's not negotiable. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to do that. But if you're going to wait, then wait. Because a lot of times when people are asking me, it's just like, okay, let's use your own agency on some of these questions, guys. When it comes to, if you're going to be taking your test late next year, if you want to start practicing coding now and you say, okay, well, I want to get the 2021 editions, Optum 360 Coding has a lot of really good sales all the time. Okay. You can also find books on eBay or Amazon that are cheaper. They may be the current year book or, whatever. And you just happen to get a used version. That's okay. If you want to do that so you can learn, that is totally fine. But if you have to pay for a book again, you have to pay for a book again. I mean, again, there's no getting around that, Hi, Caitlin. So, that's my point on that one. And I'm not really sure why, like, it's, I don't know why it's a question though. Like, if it's, should I get the 2021s or should I wait for the 2022s? I mean, obviously, if you need to get new books, you're going to need to get new books. I mean, I don't know how fast you're going to go through your program. I don't even know how long the program is for certain people, But if you're trying to rush, again, and you're on that fence of whether you should get 2021 or 2022, I don't know. I can't answer, can't answer that one. But always ask and make sure what versions you're going to need when you sit for your exam. Okay, so and always find out first which test are you taking. So many people are going through this question And then they don't even know what exam they're going to sit for. So how can you want to get these books when you don't even know which test you're going to be sitting for? You have to know which test you're going to be sitting for, folks. And again, Optum 360 has a lot of really good sales. I like their books. Tomorrow's episode is going to be a breakdown again of the ICD-10-CM book, because there's a lot of things to go over in it still. But I like Optum books because there's a lot of things that are in the Optum books that are specific to Optum, and not all the publishers have these things in their books. And yes, there's some good points to some of the other publishers, but for me, the one that I trust and the one that I find easy to navigate is Optum. So that's why I always go with Optum when it comes to the ICD-10-CM book. When it comes to the CPT book, of course, it is going to be with the AMA, that one I trust. So that is something that you need to think about, when you're looking at these books. But again, if you have to buy another set of books, you just have to buy another set of books. I mean, that's it. Han says, kind of off topic, but what kind of training do you have to keep up with going throughout this career? Will I have to go to school again or just study the new guidelines? So they do have continuing education units, right? And they have it in any type of class, right? And there's a lot of different variety of topics. Some of it is just HIPAA, some of it is CDI, some of it is specific to certain specialties and topics. The only reason that you need to go back to school is if you need training on something else. If you want to get into something else. For example, right now I am going through HC Pro's CDI program, the Clinical Documentation Integrity Program, and I'm doing their boot camp for that. So that is a choice that I made to go back to go study that. I've also done the boot camp for the inpatient coding as well. So again, that is something that I chose to do in order to further my education, further my career. So it is entirely up to you that you have to go back to school. But mostly if you're going to go back to school, like to do any kind of degree program, it's because you want to move up into management or something like that. If you are just wanting to get better or sharper, of course you can always take those boot camps. You can always go back to a school and get training for coding, whatever, outpatient or inpatient or surgeries and things like that. You can always get training for that. But you will need to maintain your medical coding credential. Doesn't matter if you're with AHIMA or AAPC, you do have to maintain your credential with continuing education units. So that is our continuing education, right? So, and of course you will have to review the new guidelines every year. Every year the guidelines do get updated, okay? And sometimes there's drastic changes. Sometimes there's not very many changes. With COVID, there was a lot of updates, right, to the guidelines this year that there weren't last year. But then, of course, we were learning and we were having to get this new set of codes, these new codes that got implemented mid-year. So because of that, the guidelines did get updated, so you want to make sure that you're going through the guidelines every year and studying those. It's a constant learning process. So more schooling for new certification, yes. But it's not necessary in some instances if you are studying on your own. Okay, so again, you have to look at what that particular certification that you're looking at getting is requiring. Okay, sometimes weekly updates. It seems that way. Yes, it really does. So, but yes, that's my answer on that one. Schedules now. Let's get into schedules, but let me take a breather for a second here. It is so hot today. So, schedules. A lot of people are telling me, Blue, I work a full-time job. I'm concerned that I won't have time to study. If you are wanting to do this, you have to make the time. You have to make the time. You can't negotiate with me, which is what it feels like for some people when they're talking or they're commenting. They're saying, Blue, I'm concerned. I work a full-time job and I think that I won't have time for this. Or hey, Blue, I saw your recommended schedule, and it says that this could take a whole year. You know, I work a full-time job. When I was in school, I worked 2 and 3 jobs. So I was either working or I was studying in school. If you want to change your life, if you want a new career, then you need to set time aside. It's not about, I don't have time. If you work 40 hours, you have time. You have at least 20 hours per week. That's a lot of time. Not really when you think about it, because you can squirrel away time during the week and fit in those 20 hours and still make time for your family and still make time for your loved ones. You have time for that. You have to be responsible enough to stop making excuses and actually get into it. Well, Blue, that's a little harsh. It's not harsh. I'm being real with you guys now, because when you have the time to sit and say, well, you know, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, and I'm looking at all these things and laughing at these memes and TikTok and all this good stuff, you could be studying. You could be studying. You could be doing flashcards. You could be reading. You could be listening. You could be watching videos on surgeries. You could be doing all of that instead of doing all these other things. Because when I hear people say, well, you know, I work a full-time job. Okay, there was a lot of us that worked a full-time job when we were in school, and we still managed to do it. So it's about stop making excuses and actually get into it and get on it. Because if you want a new career and a new life and all these good things, and to get into this field, then you have to start doing the heavy lifting, and you've got to be willing to do the work. If you're not willing to do the work, then there's not really a whole lot I can do, and there's not a whole lot I can tell you. Because a lot of times when you're asking questions, it's like, okay, I'm not really sure how to respond. when it's just like, well, if I negotiate this way, and if I say I don't have this time, or, you know, well, what if it's too much time? The the schedule that I put out of the recommended time was literally just a suggestion. If it is too much time for you, if it's not enough time for you, I don't know you. It's entirely up to you. This is the only thing I'm saying, was it is a suggestion, because people were asking me, I don't know how much time to study. I don't know how much time. Okay, so I'm going to give you just a template of what you could potentially do if you wanted to do it this way. So again, if you only want to say, well, I only have 2 hours to spend per week, then you're really wasting your time, because that is not enough time for you to study. That is not enough time for you to devote to this, to learn it. If you want to learn it, take it seriously. 2 hours is a slap in the face for this type of work. You have to be committed. At least go with 10 and work up from there. Because the less time you spend studying, the harder these exams are going to be. Whether you are going with AHIMA or whether you're going with AAPC. And a lot of people will put out this baloney, well, the CPC exam is really easy. Baloney. Because people still fail the exam anyway. And some people have to take the exam several times. So the thought of people not applying themselves because they say, oh, it's an easier exam, is again baloney. You know, it's not something that you can just coast your way through. This is a serious field, and it needs serious people. And if it upsets you, what I say, there's not a whole lot that I can do other than this is the reality, you know, so. And Janet says, I took my CCS pregnant with my 3rd daughter. There you go. See, that's what I'm saying. Mothers are some of the most strongest people in the world. So if you're a mother and you're saying, well, I don't have time because I have kids, look at Aunt Janet. I'm just saying. Hannah says, I 100% agree with this. Yes, I agree. Thank you, Maria. Where do I find your schedule? Let me update the video after this video, and I will put in the independent study link that I did, and I will leave it in the community tab as well. So that way, if you guys are interested, then you can check it out. So you can see if it's something that you want to do. And I tell people that if you follow that schedule, it'll take you a year. The shortest it should take you is 9 months. I recommend going 9 months, because when you go shorter than that, you've had to have had some kind of background already in medical. Because if you're coming in with no previous background in medical, it's going to be really hard unless you are super fast at absorbing a lot of information. Because, you know, learning this stuff is a challenge, but it's good though. I mean, I like it. But I'm a nerd, so but yes, so those are some of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight. And with the schedules and stuff, you know, when you are working with your own schedule, get on a schedule. And when I mean get on a schedule, get a whiteboard or get something or a poster board or something with your schedule and write it out. People think there's a little hooey to do like a write out thing and you see it on the board and stuff like that. But when you write out your goals and when you write out things that are attainable, and you start to see those goals every single day, and then you start working towards those goals, and then you start being able to cross those off your list as complete, there's no better feeling in the world. Now I do a goals board every month. I have my goals listed out, and I'm thinking of doing something for the channel about that. But I do have this goals board listed out. It has helped me to stay on point and on task because there are things that I have to do. And when you think about somebody like me and the schedules that I keep, right? I work a full 40 hours a week, right? Plus I have 2 channels. I have YouTube and I have Patreon. Both demand a lot of time from me. And that's okay. I'm willing to do it because I want this information to be out there, okay? Then I also do professional coaching, tutoring, and resume reviews. So all of these things take time. Then I got to set aside time for myself. And then when I do that, I still have to set aside time for school. Because again, I'm in the HC Pro CDI boot camp. So when you think of all the things that I do, and I'm not sitting here, you don't see me sitting here saying, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy every single show. I don't say those things because this is my schedule. This is what I'm used to. This is what I'm conditioned, and this is what I'm trained to do. So I'm not going to sit here and complain about it or say that I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. I may say I have a lot on my plate, but you'd never see me sweat because of the simple fact that this is something that I want to do. I tacked on school, okay, because I normally don't have this, but these boot camps are 2 months long. And so when I have this, it's just one more thing on my plate, but it's okay. I've managed to work it into my schedule. But I'm very disciplined on how I do things. And I still set aside time for me because I have to, it's that, what is it? It's that put the air mask on yourself before you help anybody else. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't help other people. So that's what I do. You know, that's how I keep it together. And my goals and the things that I work towards is eventually going to work towards a bigger goal. And so that's what I've got my eye on. And when I look at all these things that I'm doing, and I sometimes look and I'm like, wow, I did all that. And so, you know, but I try to work everything in there. And so can you. If that's really what you want to do, you can do it too, you know. Hi, Carlene. But yes, that's what my advice is tonight when it comes to all of those things. So when you are out there and you're studying, go for it. You know, if you want a better life for your family and for your kids, you'll do it. And that's pretty much all I got tonight. Yeah. So I hope you guys tune in tomorrow because I'm going to be, again, talking about the ICD-10-CM book again. I may pre-film that one. It depends because it's a lot of like where I have to film it and then narrate it at the same time. So I may have to pre-film it, but that's okay. If I do, then you know you guys will be able to check it out. But again, I'm not tech savvy, so how it comes out is how it comes out. I'm going to try my best to keep it, you know, good like the first one, you know, at least with more information now. But we'll see what happens. So I guess I will go ahead and wrap this one up. If anybody else has any questions, yes, no, maybe so. It is so hot, and I keep like having to drink water. You know who I didn't see? I didn't see Guy. That's why it's so quiet. But anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see y'all tomorrow. Bye.